One of my favorite South Beach sessions from the last couple of years is when these two guys just got together and started talking baseball, completely dorked out and went microscopic through a century of baseball history, because these two human beings care more about baseball than almost anybody I know. Tim Kurkjian is here. Mike Schur is here. Before we get to Kurkjian, who we are legitimately delighted to see here, and Schur, who we are less delighted to see, but happy to have around nonetheless, we have a stat of the day that Mike Schur promises us has the potential to impress Tim Kurkjian. Let's go. Woo! Yes, wow. That's some over-promising right there. Let's see if he delivers.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day.
The stat of the day is presented by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Folks, in an era where everybody strikes out all the time, courtesy of Sarah Langs, the great Sarah Langs. Her Twitter handle is @SlangsOnSports. Yuli Gurriel is now up to 47 consecutive plate appearances this postseason with 0 strikeouts. There are only 4 longer streaks of postseason plate appearances without a strikeout to start a postseason. They are 1979 Tim Foley of the Pirates at 48. Yuli Gurriel himself in 2019 had 48. In 2006, David Eckstein started his postseason with 50. And in 1995, a great 90s baseball name, Joey Cora, had 51 consecutive plate appearances without a strikeout. Here's the craziest part of this. The guy that Gurriel passed to go into 5th place on this list, his own manager, Dusty Baker, who had 45 in 1981.
Tim looks wildly unimpressed.
I feel like Timmy knew that. I feel like he knew all of that.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that, and I'm wildly impressed. People who don't strike out, especially in today's day and age, is incredible. We've been over this, fellas. Yogi Berra one year, 1950 maybe, hit 28 homers and struck out 12 times the entire season. Stan Musial had one season, 1943, whatever it was, had more triples than strikeouts, 20 to 18 in a season. So whenever anybody doesn't strike out and puts the ball in play, I am impressed. Never mind that Tim Foley choked up on the bat about 8 inches in order to put the ball in play, but good for him. David Eckstein is like 2 inches taller than me, so it's his job to put the ball in play. But for Gurriel to be on this list twice, and for Dusty Baker, pretty good hitter in his day, to be on this list is all pretty impressive. So I know how the game's played today. We have more strikeouts per game than ever before. But anyone who puts it in play, I think, deserves a little bit of credit, especially in today's game.
I think I deserve credit for actually impressing Tim Kurkjian, and I think LeBatard's got to eat his words. Also, by the way, in that Yogi Berra year, 656 plate appearances. Excuse me, that's a fine.
It is $5.
You really choked up about it.
656 plate appearances, 28 homers, 12 strikeouts.
You guys are having a Yogi off right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've brought it up, though, Mike, because you're insistent on saying that I'm eating my words, I was waved off because the timing didn't work. Amin wanted to summon the chickens on what we thought was a Tim Kurkjian lie when he said that he was wildly impressed by your stat.
Tim, you could not have communicated it any more blandly. Like, no, I'm impressed.
Just admit it.
It's like when people say, oh, that's funny, instead of actually laughing at the joke. That's what happened.
You were being nice.
It was a little cutting comment, too. Like, and by the way, he choked up 8 inches on the bat, too. It was like, just in case you think you know more than me.
You need to sprinkle a little bit more, like, bona fides on it.
He's so mad.
No, the point about the note is that Sarah Langs is as good as I've ever seen at coming up with statistics, but statistics that are interesting and are valid. So I should have been more enthusiastic given where Mike got the stat from. Sarah Langs, who I've worked with for years, she has a remarkable look at statistics. She's a dear friend of mine, and man, is she good.
Tim, would you be kind enough to stop yelling at us and creating a toxic workplace environment? Like I don't. It's been a while since we've upset you this way, but your rage continues to be a problem. I thought it would subside the older that you got, and it seems at this point that it's unreasonable, and I think it might be hormone or steroid related.
It's neither. Listen, I am very excited. I called the game on June the 25th. I was the color guy on the radio at Yankee Stadium when Kurkjian Javier was part of the 3-man no-hitter at Yankee Stadium. And then it was done again last night. So I saw Kurkjian Javier pitch 2 no-hitters essentially, and Ryan Presley finished 2 combined no-hitters. That's never happened in the careers of 2 players that they were involved in 2 combined no-hitters. And the second one came in the World Series. Also, this postseason, which has been absolutely insane, JT Realmuto hit an inside-the-park homer, which was the 3rd inside-the-park homer in the last 93 years in the postseason. And I was at all 3 of the 93. So I was at this one at Realmuto's and Alcides Escobar to start the 2015 and Paul Molitor in 1982 against the Brewers. I was at that game too. So the only 3 inside the park homers.
Thank you.
In the postseason in the last 93 years, I was at all 3 games. This is what I live for. It's the coolest thing ever.
Tim, don't look at me, Louie, him on that.
No, we
That's
did.
genuinely great and cool. What is wrong with you people?
He waved me off the first time he said he was at the game, but the 3rd time we had to hit him with it. I mean,
there was an inside the park home run.
This World Series seems pretty good.
Chris Cody.
You guys are the worst.
Chris Cody actually said while Kurkjian was talking that Kurkjian could say that a horse came out of the bullpen in the 4th inning of a game in the World Series in the 1950s and, struck out 3 men in a row, and that he would believe it. That anything that Kurkjian says about baseball, because it's him saying it, we tend to believe it. But Mike, can you guys tell us how we're supposed to feel about the combined no-hitter in a World Series? Because I feel like it should have been a seismic event, and I was disappointed with my own reaction to it.
So you're not alone. I was in an angry text exchange last night with Joe Posnanski and Brandon McCarthy because they were saying that they didn't feel anything, that there was no drama to it, that it wasn't making them feel the feelings that they
well done. I mean, you had to throw McCarthy in there.
Just the worst. Just the absolute worst. All of you. You can't ask a question and then when the response comes, make fun of the person who's
asking. I was
asking.
in a text chain with some friends.
Yes, that's it. You'd have to name the friends. I mean,
excuse me, Whittingham. Their bona fides matter to this discussion. It's not out of nowhere. It's a famous and well-respected baseball journalist and a former Major League Baseball pitcher. That matters. That's different than just saying some friends.
Continue, please. I'm sorry.
The point is, those friends were saying that they didn't feel anything or they didn't feel what they felt like they should be feeling. I felt the opposite. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was really cool. The Astros were playing for their season last night. Their arguably 4th best pitcher through the game of his life. Their bullpen's unhittable. The Phillies have been destroying the ball. I thought it was fascinating and great and exciting that the Astros pulled back to even in the series instead of going down 3-1 with a no-hitter. I thought there was only one thing wrong with it, which was I thought they missed a huge opportunity, and at the end of the no-hitter, all 4 pitchers should have run out to the mound, and every catcher on the roster should have run out, and they all should have jumped into each other's arms. But other than that, I thought it was great, and I loved every second of it.
Tim?
Yeah, look, we've been playing, this is the 118th World Series, and last night was the second time we've ever had a no-hitter. How can you not see that? And Mike is right. The Astros had to win that game. Otherwise, they might lose the series tonight. I mean, that's possible with the way the Phillies are playing. And I found it fascinating. A team hits 5 homers one night and gets no hit the next night. That, of course, has never happened before. So I was completely invested. Now, would it have been better if Christian Javier had pitched a complete game? Well, of course it would have been better, but that doesn't happen anymore. That never happens anymore. He threw 97 pitches. He's 25 years old. We protect our young pitchers. They took him out. There wasn't even an argument at the time. What are they doing taking him out? Don Larson's perfect game. He threw 97 pitches. It's a different game today. And that's why I'm okay with what happened last night. It was really cool. And I can say I was there. So, yeah, I'm with Mike.
I'd like both of you to discuss just what it is that you've enjoyed most about this postseason. Tim, you start.
Well, I've enjoyed just the craziness of it. This is why baseball is the greatest game. And not just that we had a catcher hit an inside the park homer, but we had that absurd game in Toronto where the Mariners were 7 runs behind and came back to win. Third time in the history of the postseason that a team has been 7 runs ahead and lost the game. I was at that game also. We had a no-hitter last night. You know, game 1 of this series, of the World Series, they're behind 5-0 and come back to win 6-5. Look at all the crazy things that have already happened in this postseason. It's been absurd. I wrote for ESPN.com that we could have a terrible World Series and it wouldn't matter because the first 3 rounds of the postseason already saved it. And now we've gotten, I think has been a fascinating World Series. Game 1, Game 3, and Game 4 in their own right were really interesting games. Even if it was just that Lance McCullers is the first pitcher ever to give up 5 homers in a World Series game. All this crazy stuff has happened. So I think it's been a fabulous postseason.
Sorry, I'm just texting Steve Carell real quick. The series has been incredible. If you haven't enjoyed this baseball playoffs, you won't enjoy any baseball playoffs. There have been enormous comebacks. Teams have been down 5 runs and come back like 4 or 5 times. There were a bunch of 100-win teams that were easily dispatched by teams that in previous years, like the Phillies, wouldn't have even made the playoffs. There was a no-hitter in the World Series. There have been dramatic home runs. There was an 18-inning scoreless game that lasted 5.5 hours. Everything about this has been interesting. It has not played out in any way, shape, or form the way that people predicted it would play out. The Mets were dispatched very easily. The Braves were gone. The Dodgers lost to the Padres, who were then beaten by the Phillies. Everything about it has been great. It's been so exciting and dramatic. The games themselves have been more interesting, I think, than they have in the past because in the last few years, you've seen mostly teams get up big on other teams and then just kind of quietly suffocate them. The Astros, who are easily the best team in the AL, are in a real danger of losing to an 87-win Phillies team. Verlander pitches tonight. Verlander, a Hall of Fame pitcher, first ballot Hall of Fame pitcher, multiple Cy Young Award winner, going to win the Cy Young Award this year, needs this game for his personal legacy because he's 0-6 with a 6 ERA in the World Series in his career. This is fascinating. This is incredible drama. Everything about this has been good.
Can you tell me, Tim, and I'd like to ask you this question as well, Mike, the one moment in this postseason that most moved you? The most recent one is seeing Bryce Harper, the sound of the bat, Philadelphia feeling as excited as it's felt about sports in 40 years for me. But what's the most moved where you got the goosebumps on your arm because of one moment?
Well, not to steal from you, Dan, but the Harper moment was arguably the best moment of the postseason, given we've been waiting for this moment for Bryce Harper since the day he signed with the Nationals, if not the day he appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated at age 15. We knew this day was coming. I just thought it would come at age 25, not 30. And I thought it would come for the Nationals, not the Phillies. But it came nonetheless. And I was there. And I just looked at it and thought, well, this is him. He's going to hit a home run right here. And then he did. That was incredible drama from Bryce Harper. And of all the great things that Mike just detailed about another half a dozen amazing things that happened. And I was at that 7-run comeback by the Mariners. But when Harper hit that home run, which is arguably the biggest home run in the history of the Phillies and one of the great postseason moments ever, that's the one that really did it for me.
Yeah, the Harper home run against San Diego, the Harper home run at home, Julio Rodriguez's coming out party was kind of goosebumpy for me because that guy's gonna, if he stays healthy, that guy's going to the Hall of Fame too. It's a crazy thing to say about a 21-year-old rookie, but it's true. I don't know. There have been so many. There are probably a half a dozen moments in this postseason that seem more exciting and goosebumpy than anything that's happened in previous postseasons, or at least the last 3 or 4.
All of them more exciting and goosebumpy than the combined no-hitter, correct?
No, I disagree. I'm not going on this ride with you. As you may remember, I was texting with some very important friends of mine and I argue the opposite, and I think I'm right, and I think Tim's right. That was really cool, and like there will never be another no-hitter in the World Series, like it or not. That was it. If you wanted to see a no-hitter in the World Series, you have 1956, you have 2022, so we're on track for one in 2078 or something. So enjoy it. I don't know why you have to be such a cynic about this.
Tim, when it comes to pitch tipping, how prevalent is that in playoff baseball, particularly World Series baseball? And what's the best pitch tipping story that you can think of?
Well, as far as pitch tipping goes, I've always been fascinated by like Eduardo Perez, who I work with, who has shown me so many different ways that you can tell what a pitcher is doing. Like with Lance McCullers, he pointed out last night on Baseball Tonight how his glove was a little bit lower when he was throwing his curveball as compared to when he was throwing his changeup. And Eduardo looks at it and he goes, if you can't see that difference as a hitter, and the difference is about 3 inches in the height of his glove and the little angle of his glove. He said, if you can't see that as a hitter, you have no right playing in the major leagues. That's how good these guys are at figuring this stuff out. I mean, Roberto Alomar was one of the greats ever. He could see what pitches were coming. Tony Gwynn told me, as far as pitch tipping goes, he said he could see Shane Reynolds' split finger grip in his glove when he took the ball up like this. And I said, Tony, can anyone else see that? He goes, no, I don't think so. But he could see the split grip in Shane Reynolds' glove, so he knows a split is coming. And Roger Clemens famously used to use a very brand new, like rigid glove all the time, just so that the opponent couldn't see if the glove was moving in any way, which would then give away what pitch he was throwing. And Orel Hershiser told me a story once where I'm watching a game with him when he's at Baseball Tonight. And he, if you look at gloves right now, they have a little piece of leather on the outside of the glove right now where you can keep a finger out and it's covered by leather. And Orel looks at me and he goes, I invented that, And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, when I was pitching, I would like to keep my index finger of my left hand outside of my glove. But when I threw a curveball, that finger would just twitch just a little bit like this. And that meant I was throwing my curveball. And he said, and the hitters noticed that my finger would twitch on the glove, and that meant my curveball was coming. So he said, I had Rawlings build a piece of leather on the outside of my glove so I could keep my finger out of my glove, but the hitter couldn't see it. That's the extent the hitters go towards stealing and tipping and everything else. It's a fascinating process.
The story that I remember is Andy Pettitte, right? The Diamondbacks knew Pettitte was tipping pitches in a World Series. When Mike was on with us, he wasn't sure that McCullers was. Are you sure now that he was, Tim?
I'm not sure that he was. I talked to a couple Phillies yesterday, and maybe this is what they have to say. No, we didn't have any inside information, but that's what I was told. Bryce Harper didn't run back and say, hey, look at his glove position. But even if Bryce Harper did, that is true gamesmanship. That's what you're supposed to do as a hitter, is find a little tell from the pitcher that shows you what he's doing. This is not sign stealing. We're not using a camera to do this. We're using your own two eyes. When you can do that, like Paul Molitor did better than anybody, that is the way the game is supposed to be played, and is your responsibility to pass along that information to your teammates.
Timmy, I feel like this Astros run, this team, this organization, and this particular run is underappreciated and will be moving forward in baseball history, because you have a team here, and I realize the cheating scandal. Okay, I do. I get it. But 6 straight championship series, been to the World Series like 3 times last 4 years. They're 2 games away from winning another one. People have changed. Springer's gone. Correa's gone. Garrett Cole is gone, but they keep replacing them with players who are just as good, if not better. The Astros are a well-run organization, and I don't think people appreciate just how good this team has been the last 6 years.
Yeah, it's a good point, Stugotz. And if they win the World Series this year, I think that will go a long way towards placing them in a rather special place. But there are a bunch of people out there that are never going to give them credit for this, because they think that, well, they stole a championship in 2017 and they're still cheating, which is ridiculous. And the thought that in 2017 they were the only team that was stealing signs, I find preposterous also. So this year will tell you a lot about how we look at the Astros in these last 6 years, especially.
Does Mike Leach look like...
He hasn't even said it yet, Tim.
an overweight Statue of Liberty?
The first Mike Leach you gave us was when he looked like one of those dogs playing cards.
He also looks like an unkempt, down on his luck wizard. Does Dallas Braden look like the Chopped contestant about to use the ice cream machine with 15 minutes left in the round when everyone knows it takes at least 20 minutes to use?
The best Dallas Braden was the one that he got off the boat, like when we came to America, and he's carrying like a big vat of wine with him, or gin or rum or something. Oh God, it was so funny.
Does Paul Feinbaum look like a Star Wars obsessed high school physics teacher who often tells his students he would have been an astronaut if not for the politics of NASA? Dave Dombrowski, Tim, where does he rank greatest baseball executives ever?
Well, if they win the World Series, he will have won the World Series with the Marlins, taken the Tigers to the World Series, won the World Series with the Red Sox, and won the World Series with the Phillies. That's a pretty good resume there. And he's really good at this and has been for a long time. And I've always been fascinated. He goes to every game. You know, most GMs, they don't go to every game. They don't go to every road game. He goes to every road game and sits and watches the team. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but it sure works for him. So he's going to be a Hall of Fame executive, especially if he wins this year. Because if you win a world championship as a general manager for 3 different franchises and takes a 4th to the World Series, hard to argue with that.
But that's interesting because he's no better or worse as an executive if they win 2 of the next 3 games. I mean, he's the same executive.
Look, he's one of the best executives of all time, period. I'm just saying it would be another stamp of approval if he were to win 3 championships with 3 different franchises.
Mike, who's more impressive, Epstein or Dombrowski?
Well, I think you could argue that Epstein built machines that lasted a little longer than the ones Dombrowski built, because Dombrowski's thing is he trades all the prospects for veterans and then leaves the cupboard a little bare. I say this as a Red Sox fan. After 2018, things went a little south. He signed a couple contracts that I don't think he should have signed personally, and he's done that in other places, and a lot of the prospects have gone on to have long and happy careers with other teams. But the counter argument is a lot of the guys he traded that were highly touted prospects in Boston didn't really pan out in other places. Red Sox fans were furious at him for getting rid of some of those guys, and a lot of them just kind of washed out. So it's hard to argue with what Dombrowski has done. the Epstein gets bonus points because the two teams that he won championships with are the two most moribund franchises in the history of baseball. So he broke two of the longest curses that existed in the sport. I think it's pick'em to me. It's 50-50. I have a fondness for Epstein that will never obviously go away. So I might argue Theo for that reason, but they're probably in their generation, they're sort of 1 and 1A. It doesn't really matter who's 1 and who's 1A.
Mike, you have done with Joe Posnanski and continue to do the Poscast. And Joe Posnanski, that's part of the Meadowlark Media Assembly line. You can get all of your baseball information there or other things as well. But Posnanski has written a book about the top 100 baseball players of all time. And it's not really about that. It's about life, as Posnanski's work often is. But if I went around, would you guys agree at every position if I started just asking you who's the best third baseman ever? Let's try and do this. Let's see if there's disagreement anywhere. The best shortstop ever, according to Tim Kurkjian, is blank.
Is Honus Wagner. Alex Rodriguez was headed in that direction until he went to the Yankees and moved to third base. But Honus Wagner was really the great first superstar everyday player in the early 1900s. And he was, a 185-pound shortstop who I fully believe could play today if we gave him all the advantages. He's the greatest shortstop of all time, and I'm not sure there's a close second.
Yeah, I have to agree, although I have a tendency to overweight guys post-segregation because I feel like the competition was better and you get a little bit of a better read. So in the past, I have said Ripken just because he redefined what the position was. It is hilarious to me and wonderful that it was going to be A-Rod, and then Jeter basically took that away from him by refusing to move. Like, it really delights me that A-Rod, other things got in the way of A-Rod's coronation as the greatest shortstop ever. Let's not kid ourselves. But it is really funny to me that when they traded for A-Rod, he was the best shortstop in baseball by a wide margin, and Jeter just said, I'm not moving, and so A-Rod had to move. Well, that's a wonderful postscript.
I have a good place where Tim Kurkjian will actually disagree with you. Why don't you give him, Mike, your most strident opinion about how Babe Ruth would do against Justin Verlander?
I'm of the opinion that at least for a year, that Babe Ruth, anyone from that era, anyone who played, whose career overlapped with the dead ball era, would be so terrified at the kinds of pitches that they saw from, forget Verlander. I mean, anyone on the Astros, literally Ryan Presley or Abreu or anyone would throw him a 98 mile an hour two-seamer that had 14 inches of horizontal break, and Babe Ruth would start crying and run into the dugout and not want to come out again.
I think Tim wants to kill you. I mean,
after a while, he was Babe Ruth. After a while, he would figure it out. He would adjust. But he also swung a bat that weighed like 58 ounces or something. And there's no way that anybody can swing a 58-ounce bat and catch up to the stuff that the guys are throwing in the modern game.
Kurkjian is seething.
Oh my
he is
God.
seething.
No, I'm not.
Look at his
Look,
face.
You should be. Blasphemy.
Mike is what 99% of the people in the world believe, and to some degree, so do I. I understand how much harder pitchers throw today. The stuff we see today is preposterously good, and we saw it in the World Series last night. I'm just saying the biggest and the best players from any era in baseball would figure it out eventually, and it might take a year to do that. Babe Ruth would not be swinging a 40-ounce bat today, and with all the help he would get today, I really believe he would become a really good hitter after a year, and he would not be overpowered by anyone in the game today. He was 6'2", 220 in his prime. We're not talking about Wee Willie Keeler, who looks like me. He wouldn't get 200 hits every year. But I'm telling you that Cobb and Wagner and Ruth and Gehrig and Walter Johnson and the biggest and best players of their time, given this is the ultimate skill sport, would figure it out today. And it would take some time, I understand. But anyone who tells me that Ted Williams couldn't hit in today's era, That's preposterous. Granted, we're 20 years after with Ted Williams, after Babe Ruth, or at least 10 years. There's no way that Ted Williams is going to come to the big leagues today under any circumstances and be absolutely overwhelmed at the plate. It simply wouldn't happen.
Crying in the dugout is what Mike Schur said, that Babe Ruth would be sobbing in the dugout.
He would be crying in the dugout, and then you would go, okay, buddy, listen, we have some modern technology that's going to help you. Here, look at this iPad, and we'll watch your at-bats in slow motion. And then he would start crying again, and then run away, and then they would have to chase him down at the bar on the street.
I told you I did a baseball tonight one night, and Kurt Schilling told me, Tim, look, Matt Stairs was better than Babe Ruth. And Mark Lemke was way better than Rogers Hornsby. And it was just, I just felt like I had wasted the last 50 years of my life trying to explain to people who these guys are. How can Matt Stairs be better than Babe Ruth? How can Mark Lemke be better than Rogers Hornsby? It hurt so much.
Yet another thing that I agree with Kurt Schilling on. It's really wild how much overlap we have.
Chris Cody, put it on the poll. It was Matt Stairs better than Babe Ruth. Guys, thank you for being on with us, guys. Timmy, always good seeing your face, buddy.
All right, nice to see you. And Mike Schur, you really know a lot about baseball. Thank you for your appreciation of the game, and thanks to all you guys. I miss you guys.
I'm going to leave you all with this. Ready? Here's one more for Tim. Warren Spahn with the as a pitcher, 356 wins with the Braves, 4 with the Mets, 3 with the Giants. As a hitter, 363 hits. 356 with the Braves, 4 with the Mets, 3 with the Giants. Come on.
That's good.
See you guys later. Mike, what is Kanye West doing on Twitter? He recently said that Kyrie Irving and Stephen A. Smith are real ones, the only real ones. Stephen A. Smith and Kyrie Irving, I'm pretty sure, hate each other. And Kyrie Irving is an ally now to Kanye West?
Well, to answer your question, what Kanye was doing on Twitter was mainly nothing. His account was suspended. There was a very public ownership change. And so while he was active on Instagram, posting photos of Stephen A. Smith and others, he has returned to Twitter with a singular photo, no caption, of Kyrie Irving.
Just a photo.
That's the message he wants to put out there.
We have not talked about the arrival in the lobby of Skechers when you have been banned by Adidas and getting kicked out of all places, Skechers. Like, next stop is Payless, right?
So, sir, this is a Skechers. Yeah, he showed up unannounced thinking I'm yay, and I can turn Skechers around. Skechers, not that I guess it matters, but I think almost anybody would escort him out of the building, especially unannounced. Skechers is owned by a Jewish family, so the Kanye stuff hasn't really landed with them.
You know, even funnier, I don't know how many people know this. Skechers is like the number 2 selling shoe company in the United States behind Nike. Yes, they sell more than Adidas. Yes, they sell more than Reebok. Yes, they sell more than Under Armour. But it's kind of looked at as like the joke shoe that steals designs and all that. So the idea that, oh, of course Kanye West would come in and they would like roll out a red carpet, because people's impressions of Skechers is like, oh yeah, they're struggling, they'd do anything to get ahead. I'm like, they're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, Skechers is the number 2 because they have commercials where it's like, Tony Romo, I wear Skechers, and you know what? They've really improved my football injuries.
Joe Montana too.
Yes.
You know that CTE, these shake-ups just cured that right up. I'm good. I'm remembering things now. Got all my kids' names. It's great.
That is Brad Williams. He'll be at the Dania Improv Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You need to go to DaniaImprov.com and get tickets. I'm told that Roy's going to be there. Chris Cody is doing 5 minutes of stand-up tonight.
5 minutes of stand-up. Hot Kanye chunk that he's going to talk about, too. He's got some, like, he asked me if it was okay. I'm like, I don't know, bro. That might be canceling.
Anything to you.
Yeah. He's going to do Kanye jokes as Harry Carey.
Look out now.
That's Elvis. That's not
doing anything.
Brad has a top 5 list for us that we'll get to in a second, but I was fairly stunned and disturbed to learn that he is such a Broncos fan.
Yes.
That he has named a child. You weren't joking. That was not
No.
a joke. You've named a
Yes.
child Elway.
Yes. That is my daughter's name.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
First name?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
ahead,
it
judge
can't
it,
be
will you?
John. It's a daughter. I mean,
Judge a man without a family. You've never put name to life.
Like L with 2 L's.
You've never had
and
that
E?
pressure. Come on, do it. Come on.
Middle name, I understand. Bad name.
Are you saying it's a bad name? Are you saying that my daughter, a perfect angel, is cursed for life because I gave her a name of a 2-time Super Bowl champion?
Would you consider anything else like Atwater?
Mecklenburg.
Terrell Davis Williams? Absolutely.
McCaffrey.
Yeah. Stanford. Elway also Stanford, though. No, and the crazy part was, it was actually my wife's idea. I'm a lifelong diehard Denver Broncos fan. But we were having an argument about names. She likes very new age hippie names. She's from San Francisco. She wanted to name my daughter Persephone.
What?
Right. Thank you. Persephone. I'm like, oh, you mean Stephanie? She's like, no, Persephone. I'm like, that's the conversation she's going to have her entire life. And I'm like, what does Persephone mean? She's like, oh, it's a Roman goddess. I'm like, yeah, the goddess of stupid names. Like, it's not a good one. And like, we're arguing about names. And then she looks on my wall and I have a signed John Elway jersey. And she goes, what about Elway? And I said, absolutely not. And then I said the name a few times. I'm like, yeah. Ellie Williams, let's go.
That's right.
Witty, name your kid Marino. I dare you. I dare you.
Tua. It's gonna be
We're on our way for that.
Clayton Whittingham. Make it happen.
Duper.
I've got a Tua stat of the day for you here that I want to get to, but I also want to get Brad's thoughts on how he just feels in general about Russell Wilson. But let me do another stat of the day here.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day.
On third downs this season, and Stugotz, I told you that one of the reasons that I'm excited about what's happening with the Dolphins is because rather suddenly they've become one of these teams that you have to fear when they're in third and long, which hasn't been the case this century for me with that team. On third downs this season, Tua is 36 of 50. He's completing 72% of his passes for 492 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That passer rating, 142.7, would be the third highest passer rating in a season since the stat was tracked.
Jeez.
On third down.
By the way, you guys ever have this where you hit your phone and it starts to do dictation? You didn't mean it to. It did it while we were talking about Brad's daughter's name, and I want to read out what my iPhone thinks.
I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight the ghost of Steve Jobs.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
What is the top 5 list for us that we'll get to you in a second, but I was a fairly standard disturb to learn that he is such a Broncos fan. He has a child. You were a joke. Name the child Elway. Yes, that's about the best one. Yes, yeah, okay, Gabby John. Ha 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 ha. Mecklenburg. Ha 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 ha. Poor.
That sounds like if Michael Irvin was from Denver.
Mecklenburg. Elway.
How do you feel about Russell Wilson? We've been dragging him. The internet has been dragging him. There's been a lot of dragging of your quarterback.
Broncos country, let's hide. I mean, I've had a meeting with my fellow dwarves, and we've decided that Russell Wilson is out of the short man's club.
Wow.
He's out.
Wow.
Can't come back.
Wow.
Can't come back.
Expelled.
Height restriction. He can't get in.
Excommunicado.
Yes.
Excommunicado.
It's
like Tim Reynolds.
Not friends.
Listen, it's embarrassing because the team has a lot of talent. You can't say that a receiver like Cortland Sutton Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams before he got hurt. Like, they were all really great. He has the tools. He has the weapons. For all intents and purposes, it looks like the new rookie tight end is solid. And it's just, he can't do it. You're seeing it on the field. You see the proof on the field. It is not working. I don't know if it's Russell. I don't know if it's Coach Hackett. I don't know if it's a combination of the two.
Are you scared, though? As a fan of someone who loves the team and has unreasonably named his daughter after a former Broncos champion.
Yes, I am scared. I look at the pain that Chris Whittingham has suffered for so many years of his life as a Dolphins fan, and I just go, I don't know if I could do that. I have loved this team so much. I can't go through that pain and come out the other side. I mean, look what it did to Chris.
Yeah.
Don't you feel terrible, though, that you've named your daughter after someone who doesn't know how to select quarterbacks?
I will fight you, Dan. I will fight you. You better watch your knees.
What is your top 5 list?
I mean, it's pretty. You could probably figure it out if you know who I am, but it is top 5 short guys in sports.
Nice.
Present or history?
History.
Oh, wow. The whole
Write this
list.
down.
Here,
Hold on a
you
sec.
better write this down.
Stugotz, you got your own list. You got to come up with your own.
He's got one.
No, I don't have one. You go.
Number
All right.
5.
All right. OLI. Do I
Okay,
get OLI?
yes,
Yeah,
of
of
course.
course.
OLI. Jose Altuve.
Wow.
Damn. That's OLI.
Oh, it is going to get listed.
I'm also a Dodgers fan, so I'm bitter.
Okay.
Number 5. Eddie Goodell.
Staple of this list.
Wait a minute. So for those of you who do not
Definitely a
know,
staple. Definitely a staple.
Eddie
Thank you,
Goodell, I don't know if everyone knows this, but he was it Finley? It was a Finley that Charlie Finley used him because his strike zone was so small that he was actually like 3 feet tall.
Yeah,
correct?
I think he had 1 at bat total. Like they brought him in as kind of like a Harlem Globetrotter gimmick, but hey, on base percentage,
Excellent.
1,000%.
There you go.
So he's good.
Number 4.
Darren Sproles,
Excellent. Scat back.
fantasy darling.
Number 3.
Slam dunk champion Spud Webb,
Number 2.
Rey Mysterio Jr., former heavyweight champion. Damn right.
Number 1.
The man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Baltimore, Muggsy Bogues.
It's a good list. I don't know how much better you're going to be able to do than
Nate
that.
Robinson
Stugotz.
would like a word.
Herm Edwards is headed back to ESPN now. What do we put on the graphic? Because and he should go back there. He's good at television, and I enjoy him at television. And for me, it doesn't ruin his credibility any that he was pretty bad at those jobs.
It was all right at Arizona State. Like, the bigger thing was he wasn't good at knowing college rules. Like, as far as like what's important.
That's a good graphic. Wasn't good at knowing college rules.
Several NCAA violations.
Yep. But Herm's great, man. Like you said, he could have gone 0 for 48 in 4 years or 5 years in college, and he'd still be great on TV, and we'd still love him. I remember one time when me and Izzy were doing a radio show, we had Herm come on, and it was the day something big had happened in football. And we were bringing him in to talk about that, and he came in and he was just like, "What's wrong with Dwight Howard?" And he did the entire 12-minute hit about Dwight Howard. And like, the Lakers need to do something, and why isn't he more serious? And that was it. And I was like, at that moment in my radio career, that was the first time we ever went off script, right? Where you're bringing in a football guy to talk football, and he's like, "No, we're not talking football. I want to talk about this," without overtly saying it, and just knowing that, you can go along with this. And at the end of it, he said, "Well, we didn't ask him any football questions." And I said, "But it was a great conversation. It was funny. It was entertaining. It was engaging. Why do we care that we didn't ask him a football question?"
We have to get to our Thursday Thunder bet here, our parlay. We're doing again a 3-team parlay, and we'll do that in just a second. But before I do that, I don't know how you guys feel about horror movies. When horror is done well, I enjoy horror. You're making a face. You got no use for horror?
let me just say right now, you startling me is not scary. That seems to be the through line on all horror movies. Like, oh, it was so scary. Why? Well, because it was really quiet. And, like, that's not scary.
You're anti-jump scares.
That's not scary. No, it's not jump scare. That's startling.
Yep.
That's not a jump scare.
That's not well
that's
done.
what it's called.
That's not well done horror to me.
Like body horror.
I mean, something psychological that stays with you, like
Like
Jaws,
Jaws
or
was
like how Psycho affected an entire generation. Like, let me make sure that curtain's a little open.
The last scary movie I saw, like I was truly, oh, this is scary, was Blair Witch Project.
Because you believed it.
Yeah, because I was like, wait, is this real? Like, what's happening here?
How'd you feel about the Silence of the Lambs? Was that
It was a thriller.
But wait a minute. None of these Jaws, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Okay.
talking about what you find on Shudder. I'm talking about, I don't know if you know.
There's a lot of campy things that you find on Shudder too, which
Well,
I
like
find
Halloween
hilarious.
and like Freddy
no. I'm talking
versus
about.
Jason or
I'm
whatever.
talking about well done artistic horror.
Give me something.
Air Bud.
Heredity.
The thought that a golden retriever would be allowed onto the basketball court was terrifying. The fact that the ref's justification was, well, there's nothing in the rule book that says he can't play
That's a good
basketball.
Good shooter, though. Good shooter.
Good shooter. Shoot.
Shudder, now that you mention it, Shudder does have an excellent special, the 101 Scariest Movie Moments, and it's really well done, and it's one of the better countdown shows because they license all these clips. So when they're talking about these films, you're actually seeing everything in pretty gory detail. And yeah, there are some jump scares on the list, but to come away from a special being impressed by the production quality and the fact that, their countdown was actually pretty damn on the nose when you talk about some of the all-time greatest horror movie moments, and it's not just a tip of the hat to the nostalgia, maybe with a number one overall, but recent movies like Hereditary that kind of stay with you.
I think I called it Heredity, which is totally different.
Yeah, but like these are movies that they absolutely stay with you and mess with your mind. But there's also like the jump scare stuff, like Halloween, and very influential films that have used jump scares as well as the psychological stuff. I highly recommend it. I got Shudder for the entire month of October, spooky season and all that. And I came away so impressed with this countdown because I didn't really think much of this streaming service Shudder. I thought it was all campy B movies and grindhouse stuff. And while they have that stuff, I didn't think that they were actually producing quality original content like this. The fact that they actually had all the clips was immense for a countdown show like this, because you see far too many of these countdown shows that just throw up stills and they kind of talk about it loosely. And while it's okay, it's nowhere near as good as it should be. They have everything in this one, and it's damn good.
Rosemary's Baby. That was scary too. Like, because
on the list.
Because the whole movie, she was like, oh, whatever. And everyone's like this crazy woman or whatever. And then at the end, the baby comes out, spoiler alert, and it's like a little devil baby. Like, I never forget being so mortified by that scene.
It gets its due. There isn't a single movie that's on this list that they missed on, honestly. Everything is deserved. There are some movies that are deeper pools that you may not be familiar with them, but you realize all the influence that they had. And, I've...
Like Air Bud?
Like, as soon as the internet came on, everyone is searching scariest movies for various reasons, and all the ones that are talked about on like message boards as, no, you got to give this one its shine. They get their shine, and with proper ranking. I thought it was amazing.
Have you seen any of the recent ones like X and Pearl? Because I feel like Amin is talking about a different kind of horror.
I did see X, and I thought that I would really like X because, I love that production studio, A24, and I'm a big Kid Cudi fan, so this was pretty low-hanging fruit for me, and I went for it. And I kind of seen the homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They did something different with it, with a different spin, which didn't really land with me, but then I got more interested because it's part of the universe. It's just a launch pad for all these spin-offs for all the other characters, and trailers for other movies have gotten me to revisit X and think of it in a different light, but I do think it's a little overrated.
Would you imagine that the industry is doing well, that horror movies, because it has not died. We've talked a number of times around here about how much harder it is to have comedy just pop in film, and I would not try very much horror. I think it's very hard to do well, and I just didn't know if horror was doing well as a genre.
Well, I think that there's like a brilliant filmmaker by the name of Ari Aster that did films like Midsommar and Hereditary that have actually stayed with you, and Jordan Peele also, from this generation, that has these really seminal thrillers that will stand the test of time. Not just Get Out, but also I think Us is one of those movies that also gets mentioned in the top 101 scariest movie moments. Yeah, I think it has its lasting effect. I really do. You can disagree.
He does disagree.
All right, name 101 movies better than that.
He's clear. You're clearly someone who doesn't have much use for horror films.
It's just I'm not. It's not engaging like the movies that I like a story. I don't like. Ooh, this is spooky.
There's plenty
and
of those
gross.
things.
But there are so many.
There's so many.
Well.
Us, the story in Us was boring.
I actually like the story.
Boring.
Okay.
It was.
But it's more ambitious. There's plenty of room. What this countdown does, it throws a pretty wide blanket on the entire genre of horror because there's so many different subgenres. You have the slasher, which is huge for growing up and teen audiences that really sees on pop culture of the moment. There's just overly graphic and really seminal pictures that did all these things with special effects that were mind-blowing for the time, like Scanners. In terms of a movie, I don't think it's scarier than Midsommar, but it has a scene in it that has stood the test of time.
The movie that you keep mentioning, because I've heard it pronounced different ways, and it's not the full title, Midsommar. That is a view. I have not seen it, but I have been told that that's as horrifying, and that if you wanted to go X-rated on a horror movie, that one is graphic enough, gory enough that you could make it X-rated.
Same filmmaker behind Hereditary, Ari Aster, who's I think just one of the geniuses of that art form right now. I highly recommend it. You're going to do the natural thing and compare it to Hereditary, and Hereditary is, for me, just so twisted, so out of nowhere, has you on your heels the entire time that you're watching it. For me, Hereditary is the single scariest movie I've ever seen. It used to be The Exorcist. For me, it's a medal stand. Exorcist, Hereditary, Jaws, these movies that have just like stayed with you forever.
So while I think The Exorcist is a good movie, it's funny to me, like you want to talk about impact. When The Exorcist came out, like they had to tell people it's not real. That's how impactful it was. People actually thought
Blair Witch Project, same.
But having the clips in 2022 and reminding you, no, there is a scene where this little girl masturbates with a crucifix and shoves her mom's face into her lap, yelling, "Lick me." That shit doesn't get made today.
That 70s Exorcist, 1970s?
Yeah.
Do those hold up? Because I do think you're looking at something through a child's eyes. When I think of the scariest ones I have seen, it's because I was young enough to. It was Exorcist, it was Poltergeist, and it was weirdly Nightmare on Elm Street. I did not sleep well for a long time on that one.
You were afraid
I was a little.
That's a perfect movie for a young teen audience. Everyone has to go to sleep, right? And this is a slasher that gets you in your sleep psychologically. I love the Freddy movies because of that.
But
the whole notion.
But that's an age thing, right? If I watched Exorcist, well, I think Exorcist might hold up.
Exorcist still gets me. If I see a still of Linda Blair pop up, I'm just like, I'm taken back to when I was a teenager and I watched that movie for the first time, and it like made me scared to go to sleep for a little bit.
Has it been remade? Because everything gets remade.
It has sequels. There is actually Exorcist 2. Exorcist 3 is actually also featured in Exorcist.
Yes, it is. It's Exorcist 3 Electric Boogaloo.
There's so many movies that I want to revisit just because of this countdown list. Exorcist 3 is actually really high on the list because it has the single longest drawn out jump scare of all time. A camera is just left unattended for 4 minutes. And it just teases the audience the entire time until something that is totally unexpected happens at a time that that's a jump scare, quintessentially.
Oh, wow. Are you guys ready for this? All right, so you got Exorcist, 1973, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, 1977, Exorcist 3, 1990, Exorcist, The Beginning, that's a prequel, 2004.
I saw that, yeah.
Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist, that came out in 2005, and we have The Exorcist coming out in 2023, a reboot.
A reboot of it?
Yep.
it's just not going to be. There's something about those 70s practical effects too that are just far scarier and more lasting.
I saw the other day, I stopped on it, and I had to stop on it for a half hour on Poltergeist because it's Spielberg, and the powers of of movies over the last 40 years, they've gotten so much better. It is patently ridiculous right now at the height of tension in Poltergeist that what comes flying out of the light is a giant devil face that now would be and is laughable because I burst out laughing. And at the time, it was the Beast. I knew it was the Beast. I was hiding under my parents' bed for several weeks because of, and I still have the scars of what happened one night under that bed.
You're 35 years old. Yeah.
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, has been remade, and The Thing actually is very high on Shudder's list. And for the time, the effects, it's a bonkers movie if you watch The Thing, because The Thing just kind of takes on parts of other things that it is in. There's this crazy scene where a head just is on a spider body, and you accept it.
I like you describing The Thing as the thing in The Thing.
Yeah.
It takes on the properties of other things, and that doesn't.
They really nailed the title.
Yeah, they really did. By the way, I'm really excited about this Exorcist reboot because listen to this, guys. It's there is a trilogy of sequels in development. David Gordon Green is attached as the director in each film, and the screenplay comes from a story by Green, Scott Teems, and Danny McBride. That's right.
Yeah, Danny McBride was behind the newest Halloween trilogy.
Oh, yeah?
It really went off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, the first one got me super excited, but it ends with such a whimper. But Danny McBride, in that cut from the same cloth as Jordan Peele, world of comedy, but a lifelong horror fan, is now trying his hand and is being trusted with these scripts.
Are any of the Chucky films in there? That scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Chucky is on there. And it's like the filmmaker walks you through his process, and it's not just they have the clips to the movies, but the filmmakers are often explaining where they derive their
Chucky
inspiration
scared you?
from.
Yeah, it did.
How you feeling right now?
I just find it funny that the original director of The Exorcist ended up directing Blue Chips. That's just funny to me.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes. Very freaking. Yeah.
That was another thing that stuck out to me about the countdown is a lot of all-time great movie directors that you didn't necessarily think had horror films in their locker, like Richard Donner, like all these great directors that are known for other mainstream films that aren't horror, that when they tried their hands at it, they did incredibly well. And I can't recommend it enough. I think I've given it enough shine here. Look, they have a very simple 7-day trial. Bang all those out and cancel it. It's awesome.
Wow, you're just
well, because I don't want to be accused of being a shill for Shudder.
You are really undermining Shudder there.
That's what I did.
So instead of shilling for them, you just completely ruined their business model.
No, here's what I'll tell you. I did the 7-day trial, but I did the 7-day trial before the final 2 episodes were released on the top 101 scariest movie moments. So it was good enough that I was like, yeah, I'll sign up for the rest of the month.
Are you ready to do the Thursday Thunder? We have not been good the last couple of weeks. Again, you want to say that we're often 2-1. That doesn't help people in 3-team parlays. You don't get credit for that.
Bet them individually. They're low prices.
That's
what I'll say.
We've been getting more right than wrong in totality. We won 2 3-team parlays, and we were feeling pretty good about ourselves, but where are we now? How are we selecting this? Are we going to continue to do it the way we've been doing it, or are we going to try another route?
We're going for another same-game parlay, Dan. Thursday Night Football, the game tonight is the Philadelphia Eagles, undefeated, at the Houston Texans.
Woof.
Now, this game has been subject to a lot of line movement. I think the first line that was out there was 9. It's ballooned up to 14 in some places right now. Our partners at DraftKings have it at 13.5. Part of that is the injuries to Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks. They're not going to be playing today. Also, part of that is the Eagles are a really good team. The Texans, really bad team.
I think the big part of that is that nobody wants to have their money riding on the Texans.
Texans haven't been that bad of a team to bet on, but when they are outmatched, and and their quarterback is an underdog, that's where they find their trouble, especially an underdog of this size. They usually come out and lay an egg, and they don't have a lot of weapons. I think their number one receiver is Philip Dorsett today. The same Philip Dorsett from 20 years ago.
I didn't assume it was a different Philip Dorsett.
I thought it might have been his son.
I was not aware that he was still in the league. So are you guys going with prop-type bets, or are you betting the game itself? You betting halves? What are you doing?
So we're betting the game. Mike feels confident in the Philadelphia Eagles today. So 79% of the money, 80% of the bets are with the Eagles. We're riding with them. Eagles minus 13.5 first leg.
I want to ask you this before you go any further, right? Because football being football, I always love the giant favorites, and I lose a lot. I'm bad at this.
I've been burned recently with my just do the opposite thing of what they want you to do. I had a dreadful last weekend. I think we might be getting to the point of the season where the things that we know about teams, we know about teams. And that actually leads us into the second part of our parlay, because we feel really great about the Philadelphia Eagles running game today. Because the Houston Texans, I was looking through some numbers, last in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. Pro Football Focus has a measuring system for different areas of the game, and in rush defense, on a scale of 1 to 100, the Houston Texans are rated 29. The second worst team is 40. So they are, by leaps and bounds, the worst rush defense in the NFL. So we like Miles Sanders over 74.5.
When the Eagles do really well, the Texans struggle a lot to stop.
Do you have any idea how many times I've made a prop bet with all of that information and then my running back gets injured in the first quarter?
That's why 57% is an amazing number if you're successful at betting.
And finally, we're just going to keep going all in on the running game. Miles Sanders, anytime touchdown scorer, even odds.
And I'm adding something to the parlay. One or more items getting thrown at Chris Cody when he does stand-up comedy opening for me tonight at the Dania Improv.
Over.
I'm hammering the over. I'm hammering it.
DaniaImprov.com. Brad Williams, thank you for being in with us. Amin, you always make us better. Thank you for spending the week with us, buddy.
We still got one more day.
Thrilled to have the professional getter of buckets, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, with us here. Yes, this is very exciting. I'm curious, because In the Blink of an Eye is your new autobiography. What do you regard, and thank you for being on with us, what do you regard as the most interesting parts of your story?
Oh, man, that's why you starting off with a tough question. You know what? When I'm thought of, usually it's in relation to my basketball and its relation to the social protesting. Those are definitely areas that I find interesting, but also just the growing up, living with Tourette syndrome, the struggles that entails. If it wasn't for that, man, I really don't think I'd be the person I am today. I definitely don't think I'd be the basketball player that I became, because it pushed me beyond where I myself wouldn't have gone without it. You know, I wanted to quit often. After about an hour and a half, but it's like it's a second person. And it was like, no, you can't finish until you play me. And I'm talking about from the moment I wake up, getting out the house may take me 45 minutes because everything has to feel perfect. And then dribbling up to the basketball court, the same thing. I mean, about 4 blocks. And if I make a mistake, about 3 times I have to back up going in the opposite direction until I get it right. So that may take me 45 minutes. Getting to the basketball court, I work out about an hour and a half. Then after that, it's like, okay, you have to make these 10 shots. You're dead tired. I mean, literally near-death experiences every day. And if you don't make them, I'm going to make your life miserable. I mean, if you leave without doing what I want, I'm going to make your day miserable. And so this is every single day I had to go through that. And so those are the interesting parts, among others.
Are you grateful for it? Because it sounds like a pretty profound misery, but also you're saying it's who I am.
Yeah, I guess you could relate it to being a blessing and a curse, depending on how you want to look at it. But I look at it, man, as a blessing. I learned very early from my grandmother that God gives you strength and weaknesses. And often he may give you those strengths to overcome the weaknesses. And so I stopped looking at Tourette syndrome as a weakness because I started to see the benefits in it. I don't think that God gives us a burden that we can't bear. And he gave it to me because he knew I needed it. I didn't understand fully at that time, but definitely I look at it as a blessing, and I'm grateful for it.
What are the benefits?
Seeking perfection in almost everything you do. It's those things that you're definitely attracted to. So for me, I wanted to be the greatest basketball player that I could be. And it definitely pushed me beyond what I would have gone. Like I said, I wanted to quit in about an hour and a half. And so if you can imagine being on the court and you can't catch your breath and you're ready to go, but it said, okay, now you have to make 10 shots. None of these shots could touch the rim. You have to do it while you're tired. The move that you're making prior to taking that shot can have no glitches. You can have 9 shots in a row. You're breathing. You can't stop. And the 10th shot hits the rim, goes in. You can't retake the 10th shot and say 10, you have to start over. That drill alone may take another hour and a half. You're walking off the basketball court. You mess up a few times. You back up. You're under the goal. You have to do that drill over and you shoot it. It skims the rim. You start over. The drill often is done twice in a row. I had to devise a strategy to where I would take the ball out of the goal after I finished and I would sling it towards my house. That way, when I would get the ball and I'm dribbling, if I mess up and I backed up, I was too far away from the court to have to shoot it to do it over again for the third time, because I knew if I kept doing it, it would kill me. So that caused me to develop the mental toughness as well as skill. You know, you're imagining invisible people, 2, 3 that are playing against you. I mean, they're hitting your body. You're going up for the shot. So it was crucial. But this was able to take me where I ended up being, which is an NBA and breaking records at LSU. And so,
can you ever turn it off? Like, can you just say, "Hey, today, you know what? Not going to be perfect."
Man, look, I wish. The only time it's turned off is when I'm dead sleep. From the moment I wake up, it's a constant battle because your mind and your body are on 2 different wavelengths, and you're trying to get them to even off. So if I touch something that don't feel right, I have to keep touching it until my mind and my body says it's perfect. And the slightest little move will start it all over again. So no, and I'm often asked, you know, I'm glad you asked that if I had the choice not to have it, would I? And I would say I would choose to keep it because I've noticed, it's a headache, man, I'm telling you, but I've noticed the benefits throughout the years of having it. And like I said, I don't think I'd be the person I am today, nor the basketball player that I became.
In what ways have you gotten improvement or coping better with it?
You know, I pray a lot, as I did when I was a child, but I train. I try to watch what I eat because I've noticed over the years there's certain foods, peanuts and things of that nature, processed foods that are exacerbated. Also, the amount of food that I eat could also increase the symptoms. So being conscious of those things, getting proper rest is just trying to take the holistic approach. But no matter what you do, it's still going to be there. And I've accepted that fact. I've embraced it. But it may calm it down to some degree. But every single day, my ex-wife used to argue, why do you go to basketball court so much? Why do you train so much? And all of these years, I was trying to find a way to express it. And one day I said, you know what? I explained it to her this way. I said, you know, you marvel at, you know, sometimes we may see a musician, things that we can't do. They're playing the piano, using their feet and their hands, they're singing. It's like, wow, that's amazing. And people may look at me and they may marvel at the fact, how can you dribble that little ball, go through these big people and make this basket going full speed and with all of these people watching? I said, for me, you know, I marvel at you being able to stay still, right, for minutes. I said, so when I go train every day, I literally exhaust myself. I'm almost like near death. And there's a period within there when you're breathing hard and then your breathing begins to slow down. And as it's slowing down, you kind of get into a zone, you're staring off. And sometimes within that zone, it could be 10 seconds, it could be a minute, it can be 40 seconds. I'm just still. I'm just no movement whatsoever. And for me, those moments of stillness are priceless. So it's constant every single day.
I want you to hear some sound here from Jamal Crawford. He is the last professional bucket getter that we have had on here, and he gave us his top 5 professional bucket getters. Let's hear that sound.
You ready for the number 1?
Yes, it better be you. Yes, it better be you. Are you not going to put you at the number 1 at the head of the table?
I never put myself on his list. Number 1, drum roll, please.
All right, drum roll.
That's all we got.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's high praise right there. Lou Williams was number 5, Ben Gordon number 4, Marbury number 3, Van Exel number 2, and you were number 1. Congratulations. It has to be one of the highest honors of your career, I would imagine. Coming from that guy.
Man, look. For sure, he was definitely, man, a major bucket getter. He had so much in his bag. He's always, man, reaching out to me, man. I'm indebted to that brother. He said, man, I'm giving you your flowers while you living. And so, yeah, he's hey, I'm super humbled, man, and grateful when I hear it coming, especially from your peers that have done it. And he's done it on the highest level consistently.
Mahmoud, I don't think I've ever heard this story. When did you decide to convert to Islam, and why? What compelled you to convert to Islam?
Oh, man. I was going through a lot of questioning, man, when I was in junior high and high school, and I kept getting the same responses. Not that this is everyone's response, obviously, but that you just have to believe and you can't question God. I'm like, man, look, I'm questioning because I want to know. I just honestly, sincerely want to know so I can do right. And I go to LSU, Dale Brown, this super white guy from North Dakota, who knows almost everybody. He passes me the autobiography of Malcolm. And I never heard of Malcolm up to that point. And so I began to read about his life. Fascinated me, man, how his mind worked, his connection with God, but also his connection with, seeking change, and how fearless he was. I'm like, wow, I didn't have that. I didn't feel that was in me. I'd been conditioned to just, hey, play the game, shut up. You want to keep your job. But that wasn't who I wanted to be, and I knew that. And when I saw him, I'm like, man, I looked up to him. I said, I want what he has in terms of that spirit. I go to, I'm still professing to be a Christian. I'm putting crosses in my, people didn't know it. I was putting crosses in my shorts, crosses in my shoes, you know what I mean? Because you practice something for so long, you don't know, you're scared about making, other career choices, so to say, faith choices. And brother that I was close with, who was a protege with the pastor, ended up mentioning Islam in conversation. We went to the masjid, picked it up. I opened it up 2-3 pages, and all the questions that I had, I can't remember the actual verses that I read, but I can remember today how it made me feel. I read 2-3 pages. I looked up at that brother. I said, I don't know about you, but my search is over. I'm going to be a Muslim. And so that's when I began to go to the masjid, read a lot. And then after my first year in the league, I think in August, that summer, I ended up going to the masjid to take my shahada and embrace Islam, and haven't looked back since.
How did your family
That's the fast version.
If you want more of it, you can get it in the blink of an eye, which also sounds like that would be the fast version. But in the blink of an eye is his autobiography. You had another question, Amin.
Yeah. How did your family react when you told them you were converting?
It was, most of my family didn't give me no hassle. And none of them gave me a hassle because look, when you provide the money, nobody want to mess it up. Right? So they may have had a problem, but they're not saying anything. But my mother, man, she the first day I told her, I said, Mom, I'm Muslim. I said, oh, that's good. Everybody needs to believe in something. Oh, wow. She took that well. Literally the next day I'm talking to her. We're talking. I said, well, hold, Mom, I'm a Muslim. Who you been listening to? And you don't. I said, my mother knows me. I'm like, when my mind is set, it's set. I said, look, Mom, I love you with everything that's in me. You've been my mother and my father all my life. I said, but you can disown me, reject me, whatever you want to do. I said, I'm gonna be a Muslim, regardless if you like it or not. This is my decision. And she was, I think, the first in the family. My mother would correct people. She gave me the name Christopher Wayne Jackson, right? And she would correct people if they called me Chris. Hey, that ain't his name. Even though she never embraced. So she was respectful of it.
Can you explain to people, before Kaepernick, before the internet, you were praying during the Star-Spangled Banner, and I think it's fair to say you felt exiled. Can you explain to people the worst of what that was to go through?
For me, I'm glad you asked that. For me, it wasn't so much that, your career was derailed. It was just, I guess, people are going to lose things in life and they're going to gain it back, certain things. But it was just the humiliation in terms of almost presenting me as if though, to some degree, that I can't think for myself. I can't make my decisions. That it's dehumanizing, the humanizing part of it. And so I remember, I've been doing this like 4 to 6 months previous season. And even the media would say, oh, he's been in the restroom. No, that happened probably a couple of times. 90-some% of the times I'm on the court. And when I'm on the court, I'm either sitting down, because I wasn't trying to bring any attention, because I'm still reading stuff. But I knew that I didn't want to stand for it. And I wasn't going to stand for it. And so, but I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to necessarily at this moment bring the attention, but God has a better plan, right? And so Todd Ely, the assistant general manager, came to me one day. He said, this journalist had noticed that I had not been standing. Would you like to get your message? And I said, sure, I'll talk to anybody. I don't have a problem. Because at that time, I decided that I'm going to live and die with a free conscience and a free soul, whether people like it or not. I have to start making, tougher choices, learning how to say no and standing up for myself, which is something that I didn't do growing up in the state of Mississippi all of those years. And after I had and these are conversations that we have on the buses, we have on the planes, when we're traveling. So I didn't think, okay, no problem. Man, after I had that interview, the next day I can't remember, we played Shaquille O'Neal with the Orlando Magic. And after shoot around, I just see a cluster of journalists. I'm thinking, well, maybe they're here for Shaq. And they came straight to me. And the first question, obviously, was what you think about the American flag. No build up, no how's your family. And I gave my response. And then I came back to the gym that night. Jim Gillen, the trainer, says to me, he says, Bernie wants to see you. And I could see the face of the teammates, like they knew what was happening before me. And when I went down there, he said, listen, I got a call from the NBA. They're threatening to fine you if you don't stand. What do you say? I said, I'm not going to stand, period. And he said, well, they want to get on the phone with you. So they got on the phone. They started talking to me. And, of course, they identified themselves as being with the NBA. They said that they tried to convince me through an example. And I just politely, I said, you know what? I appreciate you sharing that with me. Thank you. I said, but that particular example, and I can't remember the example. I wish I could. I just said it doesn't apply to me. And so do what you have to do. They said, okay. And I'm so green. I'm thinking it's going to take an act of legislation. They're going to have to go through a bureaucratic process before I actually, don't play. I said, well, can I go down and get my uniform on so I can dress out? He said, no. I said, I'm fine right now. I'm suspended right now. He said, yeah. I said, well, can I go into the arena and support the team? He said, no, they don't even want you on the premises. So, okay, no problem. So I went and got my stuff and left. And that's what happened. And then just to hear the constant media barrage of, presenting me as if though I'm this, assassinating my character, as if though I'm this troublemaker. I've never been that way. I'm a people's person. I love people. I get along with, pretty much everybody. And it was that was the tough part. And it got to the point where it was eating me up so much, I ended up having to go to the hospital because I had never experienced this before. I didn't know at the time, my gums were like blowing up like fast. You would think somebody had a pump. And then I started sweating and I was shivering and I was on the floor. My stomach was hurting. And I said, man, what is this? I go and they say, you have an ulcer. I said, wow. And then I come back, I eat, and then I had to go back again. They had to inject me with whatever they were injecting me with. And so that's also when I realized, I said, man, look, I got to let this stuff go even more. I'm not going to kill myself and internalize this stuff to that point. And that was tough. And then you train for so long, from the time you're elementary school all the way up to this point. And that's one of the reasons in the blink of an eye resonated, because all it takes sometimes is one decision, right, to change the course and the trajectory of your life. And it's not that you're saying something that's not factual. It's just that if a person chooses, they don't like what it is that you're standing for. You're not robbing, you're not killing, you're not blowing up things. Well, you know what? We're going to damage your career as a result of that. And that's the thing that bothers me. When I hear it about anybody, I don't care who you are, that's the thing that bothers me the most.
With more time and more experience to answer the question, what do you think of the American flag?
I still feel the same way. Look, it's, and I understand too that the American flag represents different things for different people. But for the most part, as a Black man, as a Muslim, we're going to look at it differently. Just like a Native American, when he looks at that flag, you can't expect him, if he understands his history, to look at that flag as a symbol of freedom and justice and all of these things. And so I'm growing up in the South, the experiences that I have, also the readings that I'm coming across by the Noam Chomskys, by the Gore Vidals, the Arundhati Roys, the Amos N. Wilsons, the list. And I'm listening to all of these things that are happening. And not just in this country, but foreign policy. And I'm like, wow, this is not what they say it's supposed to represent. If it represented that, okay, we would have no problem. But because it doesn't represent that to me, I still feel the same way I said years ago, that it's a symbol of tyranny and oppression. But I also said that I'm not saying everything in this country is bad. No, that's good that exists. But wherever it is, even if it's in Saudi Arabia, as a Muslim, as a conscious human being, we don't stand for it. That was my position then. It's my position now, even more so now, the more I read and I find out things.
I want to make an offer to you because I feel bad. Since you're number one on Jay Crossover's professional getter of buckets of all time, you are number one. I feel like we should be asking you, would you like to give us your top 5 professional getter of buckets of all time? Since you are number one on his list, want to repay the favor, maybe?
The toughest question. The toughest question.
Man, that's tough. You know what? Because there's so many. I always hate getting into these because I know I'm going to miss something.
All right, we're going to preface it by saying you've been put on the spot here. This is unfair. It's totally unfair to ask you to do this in reverse order when you haven't considered it. We are going to apologize in advance for all the people that he has forgotten because this is an unfair situation to put the man in.
But you need a bucket. Just give us the top 5
and you're going to
to
start with number 5. You need a bucket. You got to get a bucket. You got to give me a name. Number 5.
Number 5.
You got to start with number 5 because we're going to go 5 for it. Look at this. The toughest question he's ever been asked.
Can you repeat to me which list he had again?
Okay. You want to cheat off of his list?
No. I'm just trying to remember.
All right. We got to go. Lou Williams was number 5.
Yes. Ben Gordon was number 4. Stephon Marbury was number 3. Nick Van Exel was number 2. You were number 1. Okay.
Ooh. I'm going to mention Dame Lillard. He's got to be in there.
All right, that's number 5. Dame Lillard. Don't be insulted, Dame, that he didn't put you higher.
I don't know if he's number 5. I'm just mentioning.
I know.
All right, fine. Just give us 5.
The thing that we've done is unfair. Is this man is a perfectionist?
Dame Lillard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dame Lillard. Look, Dame Lillard. I cannot say Michael Jordan with all the stuff he did, man. Michael Jordan. I'm going to do Man.
No, but here's the thing. This is the reason we put you in a bad spot, because it's a very specific question. Michael Jordan does not fit in here. He is not allowed in here, even though we know that he's a bucket getter, because we're just talking about people that you associate. We associate Michael Jordan with all sorts of things. We associate you on a basketball court with, if I need a basket, this man is going to get it for me. This is like, I trust this man to give me a bucket. But it's an unfair question because he's going to be a perfectionist about it.
Okay, so Michael Jordan is the only one we can't mention. Can I mention Isaiah Thomas?
I mean, some people. This is the thing. The part of this that makes it. I mean, you're giving me a thumbs up on Isaiah Thomas. Is you can make him a professional bucket getter, because I feel like he's in another realm. The Hall of Famers are in another realm of course, they're going to get you buckets, but on top of that, they're going to be iconic forever for reasons beyond that as well.
Well, shoot, man, you messing me up with that one.
I know.
Well, no.
Totally
Think about
unfair.
it, because Jordan, he's the all-time, he's the best, he's the GOAT,
I
right?
think Lillard might be too. I think Lillard might be too
Lillard,
good too.
Isaiah's a Hall of Famer.
He's going to be in that category too, where I can't mention him.
No, listen to these names: Lou Williams, Ben Gordon, Stephon Marbury, Nick Van Exel, guys who were good players. Okay.
Now we've insulted Mahmoud
I know what the hell is going on.
Now it's turned into an insult.
Now he doesn't want to be number one anymore.
You need a bucket, man. I mean,
look, if I would have had Iverson's freedom to shoot as many, that'd be a different story. I was on a different team.
You were born too early, is what it was. Okay. No, imagine if you're playing now.
I'll definitely say Lou Williams.
Okay, all right.
I'll definitely say him.
Okay.
God, this is hard, man. This is hard.
It's fair enough.
Jamal Crawford would be a good one.
This is hard, man.
All right, he quits. The man who never quits, we've made him quit. In the blink of an eye, it is available now. Thank you, Mahmoud. We appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Y'all be safe.
Thank you, man.
Stugotz, we're going to see Mike White this weekend. Joe Flacco's complaining about being third string.
That's classic Joe. He should be upset about it. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl, and he won him a game this year. We're not going to see anyone this week unless he gets hurt. They play the Bills, and they're gonna stick with Zach Wilson. You have to spend this season, for better or for worse, figuring out if you have a quarterback. Because you have a talented team, and now you just need to figure out if you have a quarterback. So, no, we're not going to see anyone other than Zach Wilson unless they get hurt.
I wanted to play some sound for you that Amin was giggling at before we get to the bucket of death, because lest you think that Charles Barkley was any different 30 years ago, he was not. And I mean, what was the backstory here? He was trying to honor Magic Johnson.
Right. So this is right around the time Magic has been diagnosed with the HIV virus, and Charles Barkley wore number 34 his entire career. Wanted to change his number to 32 in order to honor Magic, his good friend Magic Johnson. The slight issue, not really an issue, but 32 is retired by the Sixers for Billy Cunningham. So the reporter asks Charles, a lot of people have been calling in the talk radio.
Well, we'll hear the sound here, and I do wonder, because Draymond Green has some of this, but so few athletes do, and I don't understand why more of them who have these kinds of feelings inside don't say stuff like this more, because they don't care about the opinions of people who they don't respect.
You really think I give a flying fuck what the people on the radio call say? Thank you. They say that Magic's not dead yet, and Billy Cunningham's number is retired. So why can't you leave it alone? I really don't give a fuck what they say on the call-in shows. I'm just asking the question. I'm just giving you an answer. I'm just asking the question. I'm not talking about the call-in shows. I'm just asking the question. It's not about the fans. It's about a friend. I really don't give a flying fuck. Well, you can't say flying fuck. I really don't give a FF what they think.
12 years from now, after your number is retired here, would you have any problem with someone doing a similar thing with you in that circumstance?
No problem. People are stupid. I mean, for them to make a big deal out of this is ridiculous. This is just about me and Irving. It's not about anything else. I don't have time to play in the mind games with people. I don't give a time to get to worry about getting criticized. If people like it, that's good. They don't, fuck them.
Why aren't more people in sports like that? Like, they have that defiance smoldering within them. They just don't let it out. I know a lot of people feel like that. Why don't more say it?
I think because people are sensitive to how that feedback manifests itself. When Charles said that, the only way people had feedback was calling in to the ticket or whatever the local sports station was there. And that's if the hosts put them on the air, then they'd yell their, 30 seconds of, Charles Barkley's a dope or whatever, and that's it. Now, because of social media, everyone has access directly to the athlete. We're cutting out the middleman of a radio station and getting on and hoping the guy listens, because maybe Charles didn't even listen, right? As evidenced by this clip. He was told what was said. He didn't actually hear it. Now, everyone's got direct access. Your DMs, your mentions and all that, and you see it constantly, and you're bombarded by it. So there is a feeling of, oh, man, if I say this, I'm going to hear it. And that's just assuming that all you said was what Charles said, which is, I don't give a flying.
But that attitude, Charles Barkley, can you imagine if that's what you were as a player, what he makes of Kevin Durant? It's again, that's well, Charles, first of all, isn't on social media because he, it's the exact same sentiment that he said right there.
Kevin Durant takes the same approach. It's just doing it via social media.
Well, but he takes the same approach. I don't think most people listening to this, though, would say that Kevin Durant isn't sensitive. I believe that most people know Charles Barkley, not sensitive. Like, hugely thick-skinned.
No, I mean, it does seem like Kevin Durant gives an FF, but he'll go right at people. He's pretty outspoken about his feelings. So in that regard, he's a lot like Charles. But the criticism actually gets to him, where I believe that Charles Barkley didn't give an FF.
Right. I mean, KD is responding because it's getting to him. That's
because
why
he's given an FF.
Yes.
Guys, we are getting away from the massive point, which is that Charles felt the need to censor the word flying.
You're right. You're right.
So I can't say flying fuck. I'll say FF.
Let's go to the bucket. Let's play the music.
What is a flying fuck? How does it fly?
That's a good question.
You want the origins of flying fuck?
Yes.
I'm on it.
We should have made Brad the Reaper.
I would trip over.
You got to hunch it up.
Tough gig, the Reaper.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, he's got to pick.
You wouldn't see me. You would just see the bucket floating above the counter. Oh, wow.
What do you mean should have made someone the Reaper?
The Reaper is an entity. Go for it.
Tony, go ahead and reach into the bucket. Let's see what it is you find.
A lot of teams on bye this week, Dano.
A lot of bye weeks.
A lot of buys.
I got the Los Angeles Rams.
They're not one of them.
The Rams are a road dog at the Bucks -3. The Bucks are a favorite.
Desperate Bucks.
It's a get-right game for both teams.
Yeah, but Cooper Kupp is dealing with an injury.
The injury. I'm going to put it back.
The only guy cooking. Only 2 4:00 games.
Cam Akers going back to practice.
Cooper Kupp not playing?
We don't know yet.
Cooper Kupp.
Oh, I got the boys. I'm safe. Bye week, baby.
Bye week.
Bye.
That is not a good joke.
Last week I had the Chiefs.
Cooper Kupp deserved the loser game. Show Sal.
You know what? We moved on. I don't know why you want to live in the past.
Roy, go ahead and reach into the bucket.
All right. I'm also picking for Juju, so I'm going twice here.
Wait, which one's first?
I'm going first. It's the Bengals. The Bengals.
Ooh, the Bengals. Keep that, Roy. Bengals at home against the Panthers. 7.5-point favorites.
Keep it. Now I'm picking for Juju.
DJ Walker.
DJ Walker. On fire right now.
My bad.
Adam
The Seattle Seahawks.
The Seahawks are at the Cardinals. They are +2.
Okay, I'm going to put that back.
Roy,
what
best quarterback in the NFL.
That's not my pick.
Yeah, but it's still your decision.
Oh, no. Yes. The Los Angeles Chargers.
All right, so Brad is next. Is he picking for himself and Billy? Billy needs to be picked for.
The Chargers are just so that you know, they are a 3-point favorite against the Falcons. You will first, Billy. You will pick for Billy first, Brad. Go ahead and pick for Billy.
All right, this is Billy. I love a good rummage.
There you go.
Very exciting. Colts.
They are a 5.5-point dog at the Patriots.
It is his team. Shouldn't he be rooting for his team? All right, I'll put it back. So I put it back in the bucket?
Yes.
All right. What's this?
Golden helmet of life.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
You told me to put it back.
Helmet of life.
This thing always pops up.
You're welcome, Billy.
helmet of life.
I'm glad I can support Billy.
I feel like the
Real
Golden
vultures
Helmet of
know.
Life numbers have exploded this season.
It's been like 5 or 6, and no one's picked instant death.
There was that one year that there were like multiple ones in there somehow. Stugotz had one underneath his table.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Slide a hand trick.
That's when I resigned.
All right. So then I go for myself?
Crisis.
I'm in it. Okay, let's go.
Pay it off on stage.
Thankfully, it's gotten a lot more organized since I left.
Why did the dwarf get the Wizard of Oz helmet? Oh my God! Why? What did you do?
Wow!
No one will believe it.
What?
No one's gonna believe it. No one will believe that happened. They'll swear it was staged. They'll swear it was scripted. Ladies and gentlemen, that happened.
This is a huge failure on our pre-production.
Is my punishment I gotta do the rest of the show like this the entire time? Okay, I got the Wizard of Oz helmet, so I got 11 tigers or bears. Oh no!
Which do you select, and what are your choices here?
Yeah, the Bengals count.
He has
The
the Bengals,
Bengals
so.
minus 7.5.
No, but doesn't someone already have the Bengals?
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure if that's even a rule at this point. Tell you what, you're good.
That's fine.
Bengals.
That's fine.
Locked
Keep it
in.
moving.
No, I'm not. You do not trust the Lions. I'm gonna go Bengals. Sorry, I'm gonna go Bengals. There you go.
Chris Cody, again,
of
I'll
Oz
tell the
helmet.
people, you need to go see Brad Williams, Dania Improv, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Chris Cody will do
He's not doing
an
anything.
opener tonight. Roy and
10
Amin are
minutes,
going the
right?
next couple of nights.
10 minutes.
Again, some third rail Kanye stuff in his 5-minute act as Harry Carey. Chris Cody, what do you
Race
got?
relations.
Go ahead
Yeah,
and
covered it
pick
all.
from the bucket.
I think he's going to try his hand
I'm
at
keeping-
trans topics. All the greats have tried it, so he's
Tropics.
going for
I
it.
will keep this Eagles helmet. I just got the Eagles. I'm gonna keep it.
All right.
As you should.
They are a big favorite tonight, right?
Yep. 13.5 points at Houston.
All right, I'll pick for myself and for Jessica. I'll go first.
For you?
I'm first. The Green Bay Packers.
They're a 3.5-point dog, or favorite at the Lions. 3.5-point favorite at the Lions.
Keep that.
Yeah, I'll keep it.
Yeah.
And for Jessica,
Dare.
the Washington Commanders. Put that back.
They are a 3.5-point dog at home against the Vikings.
Green Lizard.
And I took the Tennessee Titans.
Woof. They are
terrible.
Sunday
Night
half-point
against the
dogs
Chiefs.
against the
That's
Chiefs.
just
They can win that game, though.
It's Jessica's
Golden
problem.
Calla says he can be.
That's Jessica's problem, he says. It's just wild indifference.
I have taken the Chiefs. I'm going to keep them.
They are 12.5-point
Going
favorite
up against Jessica's problem.
against
Is
the Titans.
Tannehill playing? That's a weird, weird spread.
The line's
No.
massive.
It's because he's not playing, I think.
There you go. Oh, I love a good rummage. Get deep down in there. Deeper. Good one. Deeper. I got it.
Oh.
Geno Smith.
You just yelled at someone for putting that back.
I'm going to put it back.
Oh, no.
Seahawks at the Cardinals, the 2-point dog.
3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns.
Yeah. All right, I got a helmet. I have a helmet, Dan. Oh, thank you, Mike. I have the Colts.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Sam Ellinger.
Chris Cody just whispered in my ear, or maybe it was just a thought, this segment gets longer and longer every week.
Yeah, it's because of Stugotz rummaging over here.
I got the Panthers. I'm putting that back. And why is this still in here? Oh, somebody else threw this back?
The Commanders?
Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I put it back.
You think somebody kept it?
Nobody would ever choose to keep that helmet.
Oh, Daniel
Lizards on a bit of a hot streak.
Daniel Snyder.
Home doggy against the Vikings.
Chase Young just returned to practice. It's
Yeah.
a dangerous spot.
It's a good helmet.
It is not a good helmet. They may win, but it's not a good helmet.
Ah, go head to head.
Amin just took the Vikings, so you can go up against me if you like.
Kirk Cousins revenge game? I'll keep it.
There you go.
As the only
the first time Amin's ever
penalty that has been paid this year, Juju smoking a heater with Stugotz for all the amount of time that we have spent on this.
I'm pretty sure I saw Harry Carey in NSYNC.
Putting a bow on today's efforts, I know we were wondering in the local hour with David Sampson why NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was lost and wasn't saying anything as the leader of his league on what was happening with Kyrie Irving and whether or not he should be suspended, as Shaq and Charles Barkley call him an idiot on an NBA partner property. And I talked to Charles about this. He'll be on with us next week. Even though he uses idiot a lot, it's not very often that those two guys will call a player who is presently playing an idiot. And Charles specifically went at Silver saying, you've dropped the ball here. And now Adam Silver has issued the following statement because his silence was becoming damning. Quote, Kyrie Irving made a reckless decision to post a link to a film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material. While we appreciate the fact that he agreed to work with the Brooklyn Nets and the Anti-Defamation League to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination, I am disappointed that he has not offered an unqualified apology and more specifically denounced the vile and harmful content contained in the film he chose to publicize. I will be meeting with Kyrie in person in the next week to discuss the situation. I mean, that last sentence. And yes, Kyrie Irving did donate $500,000 and was in work with the Anti-Defamation League, but he has not offered an apology. The last sentence, I will be meeting with Kyrie in person in the next week to discuss the situation. What does that mean? Because if he does not get an apology, he clearly expects something here publicly and privately. And my guess is that meeting, whatever gets said by Kyrie during it, will dictate some of what Adam decides.
Yeah, it's, first of all, to this point, we have not received anything that resembles contrition from Kyrie Irving. Rather a deflection or an avoidance of any responsibility in what he did. From Adam Silver's perspective, again, it's kind of a little bit staggering that, all right, you made a statement and this time you guys managed to include his name in it, but it ends with the whimper of, I'm going to meet with him, I'm going to talk about it. Typically those meetings occur very quickly, before even a statement has come out or a punishment has been levied. You'll have the commission, when the commissioner calls, guys pick up. You don't send that one to voicemail. So I'm staggered that, so the meeting hasn't happened yet? So you still haven't sat down and talked to him about this as the commissioner of the league? Again, Friday was when this broke. It's Thursday. You're telling me the league has done everything other than have a sit down with Kyrie Irving for 6 days? It's I don't want to call it disappointing, but it is surprising an approach.
It gave me the appearance that Adam Silver, and this is just my theory, was he waiting to see exactly how the Nets would handle this in-house? And then he saw the statement, absent an apology, saw that it missed the mark totally, and then decided to get more directly involved. It kind of sounds ridiculous because he's a commissioner of the sport.
No, yeah, you're the commissioner of the sport. And this one is not a team issue. Again, we talked about it the other day. This isn't like Ime Udoka, where this is purely an internal team issue, and the league doesn't have a stance on that or doesn't have jurisdiction there. This falls very bluntly in the jurisdiction of the NBA. There's no part of this, well, the Nets have, punished him enough. No. Like, the league needs to act.
Let's play this out for a second, okay? Kyrie Irving, viewing himself as a freedom fighter, viewing himself as the guy who's not going to get vaccinated, as a voice for the people, a guy who doesn't want to play in the bubble, a guy who says the coaches are not my coaches, we're the coaches, this organization is going to serve as an allyship between player and power. Kyrie Irving says what in that meeting? Does he apologize if he's not sorry?
Well, I'll tell you this. This is from Nick Friedel from a couple of minutes ago. He just tweeted.
Yeah, this may not age properly, but Kyrie Irving is speaking to the media right at this moment, and we're getting the quotes in real time.
And this is the first quote I'm getting from Nick Friedel. Quote, Kyrie, quote, I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one who made the documentary.
Eric Slater also covers the Brooklyn Nets. He tweets he tweets, this is Kyrie Irving, some of the inaccuracies in there about the Jewish community were unfortunate.
I mean, it's just
in real time so far. No apology.
No apology is one thing, but like this mental gymnastic of, well, really, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, or like I didn't make the documentary. Instead of just saying, yo, man, I didn't know that. Wow, that was a boneheaded move by me, and you'd be done with it because again, we know that his talent will afford him a leash or a leeway that's a lot larger than that of a standard NBA player.
Forgive me, I'm going to press on this, okay? Because we are clear as a show. You have heard us say he needs to apologize. Now let's take this the next step. Does Kyrie Irving seem to you, given what you've seen from him in the last 3 years, as a person who's going to be told to apologize and say I'm sorry if he's not actually sorry? Because he's going to become a symbol again for something. He's going to be turned into, just like he was with the mask, and he ended up winning on the mask because he made a fool of everybody when he ends up courtside on a Nets game that he can't play because the New York rules are different. Is he going to say I'm sorry when being badgered by us to say I'm sorry?
So I heard the clip, the quote from Kyrie, I didn't mean to cause harm. I'm not the one who made the documentary. I heard it in context. I heard the question that was being asked. He was pressed hard on apology. The word apology or some derivative of that was uttered at least 3 times in the question before, and he fired back with, I didn't mean to cause any harm.
The reason I keep asking the question is you guys do realize, right, when Pelosi gets immediately, it becomes, in this climate, a political conversation instead of a conversation about an 82-year-old man and a hammer, where things get weaponized faster than they ever have conversationally, and Kyrie's at the center of being the most popular and unpopular that he's ever been. He is more famous than he's ever been, and it's not because he's a sports figure, and it's not because he's great at basketball. Kyrie Irving right now is a superstar who already had plenty of power, despite all sorts of malfeasance that ended up teaming up with Durant to take over the Nets. He has been empowered from every angle. The league and everyone else is telling him to say, I'm sorry. And he's going to keep saying some form of no, and now he's going to become a symbol for whatever he was a symbol for during the pandemic when he was doing things that were reckless. Kyrie Irving is now someone who's going to make people take sides. And
they're a beacon of truth and love.
There are plenty of people here, Mike. This one's interesting, man.
The quote, the question about apologizing and considering to apologize, and his quote saying that he's not the one that made the movie. If you watch it in real time, that is a pretty defiant Kyrie Irving. The question was asked so well to make sure that they had him on record. Are you going to apologize or not? And his non-answer speaks volumes.
But do you realize that when we talk about the things that people become symbols for, Kyrie Irving is more famous now than he has ever been, and it's not because of its basketball. It's because of things like this. Do you realize that he is now going to become, because of whatever it is that he's doing right now, a hero for leaning into, you're not going to cancel culture me. You're not going to make me apologize for something when I won't take responsibility for it. And everyone is leaning on him to make an apology, and he's going to become a symbol for whatever the other side is on this.
Remember the conversations we were having about Enes Kanter? Is he out of the league because of his beliefs, or is it a combination of his beliefs and his general skill level? Kyrie Irving is still an elite basketball player.
Ask Kyrie Irving, this is from Alex Schiffer, who covers the Nets for The Athletic. Ask Kyrie Irving if he met directly with the Anti-Defamation League. He said he heard they wanted to meet, and, quote, it was handled. Guys, he's not even trying to say the right thing, regardless of his internal feeling. just even the platitude of going through this just to make it go away. He's not. He's making sure to the end, to the bitter end. And it's reminiscent of Robert Sarver's last statement when he announced he's going to sell the team. And then blame cancel culture and I've been on a personal journey and I've
in today's unforgiving climate.
Like that's what he's doing. He's doing the equivalent of that.
The thing that I don't understand is, if you say certain things were unfortunate, certain things were inaccurate, I didn't make the documentary. What are you even advocating for? We don't even what. What is he saying? This is my point of view. What is his point of view?
I think he is advocating for, I'm not going to say I'm sorry when I'm not sorry.
But sorry for what? Like, what are you saying? Like, what is he saying other than I'm not sorry?
Look,
what is the message behind putting this shit out there?
I don't think for him it's about the anti-Semitism. I don't think for him it's about anything other than you will not keep me from doing whatever I want with my power.
It's not about anti-Semitism so much as it is they're trying to tell me that I can't tweet this or I can't, or I'm not going to be told, quote unquote, how to think.
I mean, if he does that to Silver, he's going to get suspended. If he's not going to be allowed to play in the league, if he does that, if Silver goes in there and says on behalf of our customers, on behalf of decency, on behalf of our league needs to be anti-hate at every turn, our league needs to condemn hatred at this time. He's going to get a stiff penalty if this meeting with Silver, if Silver's requesting something that looks like public contrition and he refuses to give it.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was, in essence, blackballed because he wouldn't stand for the anthem. Right? And then when asked what the flag represents to him, he said it represents tyranny and oppression, right? Blackballed. This dude was, as we have talked about many times, a bucket getter, right? You're saying Kyrie's going to get suspended. I'm saying welcome to the hell highway out of the NBA. This is the part where they're like, no. And this is the part where I don't believe someone of Kyrie's stature in terms of his ability has ever encountered this. That you're going to be so problematic that literally 30 teams are just going to say no. Because he's there. He was already knocking on that door last season. And the offseason didn't help him. But now he is firmly in the territory. I believe he's going to be out of this league. And people are going to say, why isn't he playing? Yeah, because people don't want the problems, that the baggage that brings.
But let's go to the meeting. Let's go to the meeting next week because we're at a crucible. It's a crossroads on this one because if you do not give the league contrition when it is advocating for contrition, and we're talking about this as a symbol for what he is, player empowerment, the idea, that he thinks that the power that he has allows him to test and dare anyone in that league, including the commissioner, to make him apologize when he does not feel like apologizing. If that's where that ends up, when Adam Silver would benefit from doing something right now, as you say, you don't want to say disappointed, but surprised that they haven't acted quicker. I'm guessing that it's because, Adam Silver is waiting for that meeting. He will take the hit of whatever that is because that meeting, he's going to leave that meeting with something that resembles a punishment if Kyrie doesn't say and do what the power is telling him to do.
I'll tell you what the meeting's going to go like. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf told us what the meeting sounds like. Hey, this. Can you do it? And he's going to say, no. So, all right. Okay, well, I'm going to go play. Like, no, just, well, can I stay and watch my team and cheer support? No. Just grab your things and go. That's what the meeting's going to sound like. Hey, we need you to do this. If he wants to stand on his soapbox or stand on this hill, die on this hill of, nope, I won't apologize. I will never say the words sorry. I will never capitulate. Then they'll be like, okay. There's the door.
Is it going to be presented that way to him, or is he going to be surprised that he loses the power battle? Is it going to be presented to him as, Kyrie, you apologize or you're not going to be playing? Not just now, you're not going to play. Like this, and they can't say it like that because that's collusion.
Yeah.
They can't say it like that. But will he get advice from the people around him that he'll be headed for maybe a fight that he wants? I mean, maybe a fight that he wants against the league, because he wants, if he's going to be a freedom fighter for people at work during the pandemic who were being forced to be vaccinated or lose their job, if that's what he was saying for the powerless, what do you think he's going to choose here? Given what you've seen of him, how unpredictable he is, we know he loves basketball, but we know he also doesn't mind not playing basketball for whatever he believes to his causes to be.
By the way, he has another quote here. I'm going to answer your question, but this is another very odd quote. I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I came from, or I come from, excuse me.
It doubles down on one of the key
elements of this
false
movie
quotes.
/ book, which is that black people are the real, came from Israel and all that.
He's more referencing his. I watched the video. He's referencing his thing about being an omnist, where I believe in all religions and I'm supportive of everything. Like, he's basically saying I'm supportive of everyone. I know where I come from like a morals and values standpoint.
This, according to Nick Friedel, the press conference was cut short by Nets PR.
And he never issued a formal apology.
Dan, to answer your question, the biggest thing is the people around him. 9 times out of 10, I don't know what the situation around him is. 9 times out of 10, when guys are talking and they continue to talk like this, the people around them are enablers. And anyone who is not doing that role is pushed to the side.
We're seeing it with Kanye.
Right?
I mean, that's why they gravitate towards the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons, because, hey, we'll take on your cause.
Right.
Look at who accepted Enes Kanter
Yep.
onto their platforms and made him a hero. At this point, the more common thing is to not show contrition. It's to run to the
Double
warm
down.
bosom
Yep.
of who's there to support you when they're really just using you.
Let's, just for the record, because I don't know how many people instantaneously would be reacting to this as it happens. As the Nets tried the last couple of days to keep Kyrie away from people with the quotes from Sean Marks saying, we don't think as we bring in Udoka, we don't think that it's a good idea for Kyrie to be interacting with people. He just interacted with people right after a commissioner's statement that I will meet with him next week. I mean, this is the crucible on the last 10 years of American politics combining with sports in a messy way, and players getting more and more strength in a way that makes them a problem for the Nets, for a problem for the commissioner. And I don't think that you and I are overreacting. Am I wrong when I say that this meeting between the commissioner and Kyrie is for Kyrie's future in this
career,
in this league?
For his career. I don't think we're overreacting.
The person that I fuck with the most in all of this is James Harden, who just saw that dude saging the locker room one time while he was on a training table. He's like, I'm out of here. I gotta go.